Mayor Sinclair, who has been a keen and great supporter, not only for his community over the last few years, but also the disbandment of Tourism Waikato, nothing for about 3 to 4 years, and then the restart of our RTO. So look, I really appreciate your support, and on behalf of Kiri Gulta as well, this is really her report around all the things that her and her team have achieved over the last 12 months. So first up, just some high-level summary, which is contained in the report. Tourism is booming, as you know. We are at the top of the cycle. We're calling it for us as an industry. We probably will be staying at that level for the next 5 to 6 years. The projected growth of visitor numbers across New Zealand are significant, and I'll take you through those in a moment. But for us here, particularly in the region, we're now the 5th highest region with regards to expenditure. We are basically accruing around 1.23 billion a year on expenditure into the Waikato region. That is only a couple of literally years away from our 2020 goal of literally achieving 135 billion for the region. We will be easily able to achieve that within the next couple of years. Commercial guest nights are up, and again, these people that stay in what I call from holiday parks through to hotels, so that's your backpackers, motels, hotels, as well as holiday parks. Non-commercial I'll touch on later. We've completed the Tourism Opportunities Plan, and that's obviously how we're going to take the region forward as well as your district over the next 3 to 5 years. And we've also had finally a lift in what we call domestic guest nights, and that's around a big focus for us over the next 24 months is around lifting domestic tourism into the Waikato region. We have 6 KPIs or key performance indicators that we have with each of our council funders over the region. As you can see, that's them there, but I'll just quickly give an overview of them. The first one is around growing commercial guest nights, so people staying in commercial accommodation. Our growth rate compared to last year is at 8.4%. New Zealand trend line is 5.7%, so again we're exceeding their target. We also have one around growing total delegate days to 10% market share. That's around those who come to our region who literally is coming for conferences, meetings or incentives. We didn't achieve the 10% market share growth, but we are at 8%. There's a couple of reasons for the drop. One of it is that Christchurch has now come back on stream. So pretty much Hamilton and Waikato have been able to leverage, unfortunately, on the absence of Christchurch being quite a key metro to actually host events for the last 3 to 5 years. And a lot of them have come to the Waikato. But now Christchurch is back up and running. We are seeing a bit of a shift now. People actually do want to start to have their major events in Christchurch because it is a new emerging city. But again, we're going to probably see more of an uplift now with what we call our Australian market with regards to conferences, and I'll talk about that later. Maintaining domestic visitor expenditure and international visitor expenditure are KPIs 4 and 5. And then, 3 and 4, sorry. And again, we are seeing big growth for us in the region, 7% for domestic visitor growth, expenditure, and 10.6%, around 11% for international. So again, far beyond the New Zealand growth trends. We had a 30% increase in visits to hamiltonwaikato.com, which is our main tourism website. It's at 30%, we managed to achieve around 27. Again, we're probably going to look at that KPI a bit more. It's not just around visits, I'm looking at digital engagement and how we're actually getting people to actually close that sale when we refer to some of our operators in the region. And lastly, we exceeded and managed to attract 430,000 of what we call partner funding. This is the sector themselves, tourism operators, accommodation providers, and attractions and activities providing us funding and doing joint campaigns internationally and domestically around coming to the Waikato. Stats and research, just quickly some high-level stuff. This is the latest data that was just released from MB a couple of weeks ago. Our international arrivals for the country. We haven't seen a huge shift in what I would call our main demographics visiting us, but what we are seeing is definitely increasing numbers. So Australia is still our key market for international arrivals at 41%. China is growing at 12% year on year, with growing middle class, with additional capacity of airliners now coming into New Zealand from China. We've got another one coming in that was announced 2 weeks ago from Tianjin, so that's now another 85,000 seats coming into Auckland every year. There's going to be a huge uplift in Chinese coming into the country. Now, the difference with our Chinese tourism now is obviously, as you have been experiencing yourself, they're not just doing coach tours now with a growing middle class and what we call a high wealth. They want to be free independent travellers, they're hiring vehicles, they're hiring camper vans, and they're coming into our region. So we're definitely going to see a big increase in that. And again, Tourism New Zealand, the New Zealand Transport Agency and councils particularly have been working around how we're going to make sure we continually educate around driving in New Zealand. The USA is now another growth market for us. It had dropped away for many years, but again we have American Airlines, United, Air New Zealand and Hawaiian. Air New Zealand now have 2 routes directly, well 3 now actually, into the US, with Houston coming on stream. So again, you're going to see a huge uplift in US citizens coming into your district. And then we have what we call our traditional markets, the UK, Japan, Germany and Korea. We also have new emerging markets coming on stream now. Air New Zealand's link straight into Buenos Aires. We're now seeing a bit of a lift now in South American tourists coming into the country, as well as the traditional land Chile. So again, you're going to see a bit of a move with regards to the type of people that come here. We're still a safe country. Touch wood, we've never had a terrorism attack on our shores at this stage that has affected our brand. But all it takes, as you probably are aware, is an eruption at Ruapehu or an earthquake in Christchurch, and an international market will look at us and think the country's shut down. So again, it's about making sure we're quite buoyant. And also Tourism New Zealand and all us RTOs have been working offshore for the last 3 years around getting more visitors to come in what we call our shoulder seasons. That's autumn, winter and spring. And we've definitely seen a big uplift in the region throughout normally our quiet times, which is good. We want to try and level those out. Just some high-level stats. I've talked about guest arrival, visitor growth. Now these graphs are in your report, but they're quite hard to read, but really it just shows percentage growth on growth every year for the region. But here in South Waikato, again you're the orange, which is quite hard to see there, but you can see a bit of a growth there, but then there was a bit of a drop with regards to commercial guest nights. So again, we're not seeing probably what we expected with regards to shoulder seasons, but it's around obviously developing what are going to be the future things to actually get people to stay one night in South Waikato and actually spend more money. That's going to be one of the key drivers for us over the next 3 years. Commercial guest nights, again, we've talked about it at a regional level, so we are just seeing a trend line up of our commercial guest nights across the last couple of years. Here in South Waikato, you're attracting around 175,000 commercial guest nights per year, so that's again from 2015 through to the 30th of June this year. Again, regional stats with regards to international expenditure are growing. Here in South Waikato, you are the blue line. So even though you are actually aligning yourselves pretty much to the trajectory of our regional spend, you still have a bit of peaks and troughs as well. So again, our goal is to try and level that out. So pretty much we're seeing year-round international expenditure. Domestic expenditure for the region again, but here in South Waikato, you're actually overtaking and sometimes leading the regional trend. So you are the blue line there, and you're actually going above the rest of the region. So again, from a domestic perspective, you're definitely getting more domestic tourists coming into the region. We have a big uptake of what we call visiting friends and family here in the Waikato region. So the idea is that if you're going to be visiting friends and family and you're in Hamilton or Cambridge, we need them to come down to Kataru Tito or here in Tokoroa, stay, do the river trails and actually experience a bit more. So you are putting, as you know, a lot of asset around the river trails with the Timber Lodge coming on stream, so that will really help in what we call capturing that market and keeping them down here in the district. For the first time ever, I can now give you what we call a breakdown of spend. At the moment, it's only at a regional level. From the beginning of next year, I can give it to you at a district level, which will be very helpful for you, where you can actually see where are our domestic and international tourists spending their money. So for international spend, again, might be quite difficult to read. Number one is food and beverage, is the number one spend for international, and then we pretty much go through all the different types, retail sales, other passenger transport. To the second to bottom is around accommodation services, and final is transport. However, a complete flip for your domestic visitors. So they're coming here and they want to spend money on retail. And we've seen that pretty much quite effectively across the whole country, even with regards to actually people shopping in major metros. It is now pretty much consumer spending is high, retail is increasing. So we're definitely seeing that from a domestic tourism factor. They come into our districts and regions and they actually want to spend a bit more money in some of our stores, our galleries. They want to pay for those experiences. Because below there you can see retail sales number 2 is fuel and automotive products, and then food and beverage, that's our cafes and restaurant sector, and then again still food and beverage and retail is quite big, so those are our dairies and supermarkets. And then finally the bottom one though is accommodation services, so quite low for domestic, again that's expected of visiting friends and family. But just touching on this slide particularly, we are working with the government, particularly MB, around trying to capture what we call non-commercial guest nights. We are seeing a big uptake of Airbnb across our region, as well as Bookabetch and holidayhomes.com. So for us, it's really making sure how we as a sector going to try and capture those, what we call non-commercial guest nights, and reporting that to our district. So at least you can get a good picture of what other players are there going on within the district. Some generic marketing activity, I won't go through it list by list again, it's in the report, just giving you an overview of some of the stuff that we do offshore. So again, our key markets into Australia, China and the US, as well as our generic international markets. And just a couple of points, we are also part of what we call Central North Island Alliance. So we work closely with Taupo through to Coromandel and our partner regions around working together and marketing ourselves offshore. So it's about saying that the Central North Island is the place to come. We have cycling, we have biking, we have skiing, we have geothermal activity, and we have a beautiful environment. We also have that great big river, which I'll talk about soon. So again, it's about working together to market ourselves offshore, which gives us more power. Travel trade, so this is where we actually market to what we call inbound tourism operators and a lot of travel trade into the country. We go to major key buying events and actually collaborate and target the whole region. We do for mills are familiarisations with travel trade, rather we'll do it offshore. So in a month's time, a few of my team are in Sydney and we're actually pitching to what we call the conference and trade buyers around why they should come to the Waikato particularly, why is it different for them to host their conferences here. These are just some of literally what we call the major travel trade that have been profiled for South Waikato, and you'll see there's been a big take up of what we call the Chinese market again through the airlines. Emirates have just finished a $2.5 million campaign with Auckland Airport. They're bringing more people to come here at the off-peak. So again, we're just going to see if it will grow from some of those areas. And lastly, media and print, all a bit jigged up there. Pretty much just covering some of the familiars that come in media from really our domestic, from Kia Ora magazine through to travel supplements and the Herald, Sunday Star Times coming into your district, giving you things a go. And then we obviously spend a lot now, and we're definitely focusing a lot more on what we call domestic marketing. So it's two-pronged. We work on other New Zealanders, so other border regions, or that big population just up the road called Auckland. We're trying to get them to come down to the Waikato region for what we call mini breaks or long weekends around events and around staying another night with us. We obviously spend a lot of time we have a campaign called Explore Your Own Backyard. It's actually getting Waikato people to go across the region, explore and experience our own Waikato attractions, do our river rides, eat at our cafes, so that when they do that, they actually become our own ambassadors. I could spend millions on offshore campaign, but all it takes is one person from Waikato to say, why would I come here to my region? If someone from overseas asks them, they'll say, don't bother mate, just go to Christchurch, go to Queenstown, I love it down there. We want them to actually start to say the 2 or 3 key things they should be doing when they visit here in Waikato. So again, building our own ambassadors. Chinese New Zealanders is big for us, as well as a target because it's a growing market, and of course field days and other domestic marketing. Just as of note, on Saturday, we part-funded with other RTOs around the country a TV series called Our New Zealand Escape, which airs on Saturday. The Hamilton Waikato edition will be on the 1st of October, and they actually did come down to South Waikato, so make sure you tune in on that, otherwise we will share it with everyone when it's on demand. Convention Bureau, so again, we are going through what we call Convention Bureau in its old form about bringing conventions here. We now are really targeting what we call business events, executive board meetings, and this is across the whole Australasian market, not just here in New Zealand, because people want to travel, they want to bring their meetings to places that are different. South Waikato is definitely at a unique position because you're what I would call a genuine experience. They don't want to go to a hotel, they don't want to go to a city, they can do that in any part of the world. What you have here is definitely your natural environment and authentic experiences. So again, that's something to leverage off. So I won't go through some of that, but a big one is our international conferences. So some of you might be aware, Tourism New Zealand offer what we call community assistance. So they offer funding for conference bids around the world. So if you're a member of a society where you always travel overseas every couple of years to some international conference and you would love to bring it here to New Zealand, Tourism New Zealand work with us to actually try and do what we call offshore bids. They will pay for the layout of those bids, they'll even pay potentially for airfares for you to go and present at those organising committee conferences to try and bid for the conference in a couple of years' time. So we are getting some wins around that, and we've got another 7 in the pipeline right now awaiting decision. But the big one for South Waikato and for all the districts is, so what are we going to do? Because we could just sit on our hands and the international arrivals will still be increasing into our region, but we need to be capturing them and we need them to be spending and increasing our economic activity around visitor here in the Waikato. So we've developed the Tourism Opportunities Plan, which many of you were involved in during the consultation phase led by Kerry. There was a vision that was created around the mighty Waikato River, which is our lifeblood. And to be honest, being new into this role, it is the Waikato's unique selling proposition. No other region in the country can say we have New Zealand's biggest and greatest river that runs through the heart of it. They have Alps, they might have beautiful white sandy beaches with Pahurikawas, but so does Coromandel and so does Northland. So again, in Bay of Plenty. Whereas for us, we have the river. And we need to really leverage that as an opportunity on why people should come and visit our region. So the vision fits very nicely into the Waikato story, which was obviously many of you were involved in as well. So again, we're trying to be quite aligned in our generic messaging within New Zealand and obviously offshore. We have a positioning statement, and all that really means for me is when I go to market, I know how we're going to position us. So again, yes, a bit of an image there of the Blue Springs, remarkable journeys through classic New Zealand. So again, that is something quite significant and different to us. We do have Hamilton, great, that's our hub and our main service city. But what we do have is definitely a lot more what we call authentic experiences, a collection of villages, a beautiful natural environment, the home of dairy. We have lots of things going for us as a region that we need to be leveraging off. So we identified 5 what we call game changer projects or themed ideas that will really lift tourism experience here in the region. So first up is the Waikato River, which was talked about. And when I talk about activating the Waikato River, it's really around getting more what we call activity on the river, whether it be we have one ferry service at the moment or a river explorer boat in Hamilton. It would be great to get more boats actually on our river, more waka. It would be great to have more activity or even access to your river, which you guys definitely provide here in your district. But again, it's getting more people to understand it. We've got river trails, again, that go alongside our river as well. So again, it's making sure we have product and other reasons why they should stay a bit longer based around some of those trails. We've identified a brand strategy, and again, it's not coming up with something new, it's really doing an audit. So what do we have? We have the Waikato story, we have the South Waikato story potentially, we have all our districts. What does that mean? Where are the gaps? And what do Waikato people feel? Or what do we feel when we're residents here? How are we going to promote ourselves offshore? How does that fit in? So again, just really trying to define who we are as a region when we go and market ourselves offshore and domestically. Hamilton City Riverfront, we don't need to spend much time on that. That's the City Council wanting to turn the city around to face the river and building a lot of development on that river. The home of Kingitanga, quite significant. Again, no one else in New Zealand has the home of Kingitanga. We are the home of Tainui, we're the home of the Kingitanga. When international visitors come to a country, they normally will go and try and see where their palaces or where the kings and queens of their country live. Now, I know for a fact, being involved in it, we probably isn't going to be around developing Tūranga Waiwai as the Buckingham Palace of Māoridom. What we would look at is actually activating more cultural experiences throughout the region and again tied to the river. Whether we have a whare waka here somewhere in the region which celebrates waka and the reasons behind it tying into kura neihana or the regatta, there's lots of significant activity already on the river from a Kingitanga perspective, but it's about joining all of that up. And also define this as a region. We had the land wars, they went right through this entire region and ended here as well. But we do have the government now looking at wanting to commemorate those significant sites and that day. So again, great opportunities for us to acknowledge where we come from as a country and what has defined us moving forward. So great opportunities under the Kingitanga program. And then lastly, a regional event strategy. And that's not around looking at the iconic ones alone, such as Mystery Creek, or Balloons Over Waikato, or other significant events. It's about growing and fostering our emerging events, such as some of the what I call the multi-sport activities that you have down here in your district particularly. How are they going to grow? Is it unique? How can we help with their funding? Do they need to have more feasibility studies around it, more marketing? So again, supporting a lot of these new emerging events across our entire region, so that there's more reasons for people to come and stay and explore. So those are the game changers. I won't spend much time on that slide, so I've spent far too much. But lastly, I'll just wrap up with what I call, what are your key projects here for South Waikato under there? So under the Tourism Opportunities Plan, luckily out of the 5 game changers I've talked about, 4 of them are right here in your district. So you do contribute to the Waikato River because that's part of your region. The brand strategy is going to be part of your discussion. We will be developing and looking at more cultural experiences around Kingitanga in your district. And then also the event strategy, you're a strategic part of that discussion as well, and what that will look like when we develop it. We then have what I call specific programs of work. So we have the first one, again a bit hard to read maybe, is experience themed, discovering your own backyard. Emerging for us is themed drive itineraries. So again, theming some drives off the Thermal Explorer Highway, which is our main tourism route, to actually get people to explore some of our towns, some of the hidden gems of places. So that's going to be quite key. New for us is definitely agritourism and things around developing our artisan producers like over the moon cheeses and getting more wraparound activity around that would be fantastic. Middle Earth and beyond, the middle stream. So again, emerging as the cluster of conservation sites we have here, such as Te Waiho Walkway. And then again, the health and wellbeing cluster. So this is where it's quite a significant spend. Tourism New Zealand have been targeting what we call premium and luxury markets for the last 10 years. That's now completely coming on stream, but we don't have a lot of premium product here in the region. They don't have to be big. They could be a boutique six-bedroom lodge. They could be a health and wellbeing spa. They could be something that's clustered around that. But again, trying to capture some of that premium market because you don't have to worry about quantity of visitors. It's about the quality and the volume and the amount they will spend while they're here. So Okarori has been identified potentially as one of our cluster areas for health and wellbeing, which links into Te Aroha and potentially Raglan. And then lastly, we have what we call inspiring pathways. So what really will take us on a journey through our region. Emerging home of cycling with the Waikato River Trail is key for us. And then lastly, Waikato walks. So developing more short day walks, more literally 2-hour walks that really people will have to physically stay, rather than 10-minute traits where they can just go somewhere, take a photo, jump in their car and carry on through our region. So that's just a quick snapshot. It doesn't cover everything that we've identified here in South Waikato because the idea is over the next 3 years we'll be working with you to develop a lot of those programs and projects, getting your feedback, getting you to get us in touch with the right people, and then obviously with the new council coming on board, then defining where potentially some of those things you want to focus on that we can help you with. So that's the end of my overall spiel, so thank you. Happy to take questions. Again, just wanted to acknowledge the support of South Waikato District Council and of Kerry Gupta, who blood, sweat and tears brought this organisation back. And I was able to pretty much pick up an organisation which is in good heart. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you very much. I will open it up for questions before all I'm saying, my only comment with that as well. We're at the table with Hamilton Waikato Tourism. I think it's incredibly important that we are there and that we continue to be there, because I look at the marketing that has been done for us that we as a council could never ever have done on our own. So fully supportive of where, in this is my humble opinion, where it's going, where it's taking us as well. And I'm particularly interested and excited about the opportunities planned going forward, because we have got emerging events coming that we actually need help with, especially with the marketing in the future. So I think this is very exciting. Councillor Van Rooyen, you had your hand up first, and then I'll take it around the table.
Madam Chair, my question is in two parts. The first one is under the number of opportunities, Mokai Haha is missing. So it seems you are familiar with it, or okay. So I would like to see that included. The second question is, can our district and Waikato as a whole support the rapid growth that is happening in tourism?
That's a very good question. That is why the government, obviously, hopefully, I think we would have anyway applied to some of that infrastructure funding. It's still not enough though. We are having discussions with government because obviously a lot of research funding and a lot of infrastructure funding has gone into other sectors for many years, and tourism's kind of fallen by the wayside, but with the significant growth that is happening, the government are trying to obviously provide more funding. That is key. I think that's been consistent from local government New Zealand and from each of the individual districts, because we are going to reach a point, and Auckland already is. So Auckland is already at capacity, hotel-wise. They're trying to bring on more hotels, but to be honest, where we're leveraging right now for these 2 to 3 years, people are coming to the Waikato. So we're already capturing what we call the first night off an international flight. They drive south and then stay somewhere in the Waikato, and then their last night before they get to Auckland, they're now staying here. It's easier to get to the airport from Auckland from here. We don't have accommodation issues at the moment, apart from Hamilton, we don't have enough hotels. So we definitely are having some benefits, but we definitely need to be looking at how we develop more infrastructure. And that's right down even to, as you guys know, more rubbish bins, potentially car parks, toilets, which obviously you've had a debate about for the last few years. So again, looking at what are going to be the key infrastructure, and then how we're going to bring them to come what we call off-peak. That's key for us, because we don't want everyone coming in the summer.
I think think we've seen the managing our success has been a real issue, especially as far as the Te Waiho's concerned. So that brings itself a whole lot of other issues as well. So you're right. Now I'm just going to put that to Mr. Hobbs, please, about the infrastructure fund. If you could just explain it, because I actually thought that there was an opportunity there.
Chair, we haven't put an application into the infrastructure fund. The reason being is that the criteria was actually quite onerous, in my opinion. We couldn't have a project that was already pre-planned, which of course our toilets at Te Waiho, which we considered would be. The other thing is it has to be over $100,000 worth of value, and the toilets aren't going to get there. So there's 2 more rounds proposed. Just I understand. And we'll be looking to put something in the future into that. Certainly things like board walks potentially on the way could be an option, things like that. So we're doing some work around that, but today we don't have an application.
Thank you for that. Are there other questions?
Thank you, Chair. Just to carry on at Zone 2, we had tourism export.
Yes.
Speak to Zone 2 and talked about, the money that the government's put out, it's 12 million over 3 years. That actually asked for 100 million, so that it could therefore be a decent thing, so that lots of us could actually pick up on it. And the government only gave 12 over 3 years, so that pressure going on. But it was very interesting listening to tourism export, how RTOs, Tourism New Zealand, all fitted into this, and it was good to see what I'd say a good structure now. That was tourism was a little bit haphazard, but now is actually recognising its importance and has put together a good structure of who's selling, where selling, and what's taking place. And I think that what has now taken place with Hamilton Waikato tourism is now we're seeing the benefit of good structure, good administration, and we're seeing that way forward. And I endorse you that we become part of it, and we have more things to sell, as you've said about a kokako in terms of that, and people coming in. Hey presto, I was out the other day and there was the Rotorua Vintage Car Club, 30 of them coming into our district and spending and doing that, looking around. So
we are seeing more visitors,
and we're seeing that and that coming in. And so congratulations to tourism. Some years ago we were worried. You're certainly not Hamilton centric now. You're now nicely, facing the good things of the whole Waikato, and we congratulate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. The positivity of that report and the numbers is really heartening. Are there any other questions of Jason? Comments? Mr. Hobbs?
Yeah, Mr. Hobbs.
Yes, Mr. Hobbs.
Just intriguing, one of the challenges obviously we've got with the Waikato walkway is the fact that we can't put the ticket on the stage, and we're looking at that. The other issue we're aware of is the tour buses that are coming through now, where people are getting onto a plane in China, paying for everything up front, being charged to visit the Waikato walkway on a bus that's managed by Chinese companies. So none of the money actually sits in New Zealand, but they're putting the ticket on a free event. Is that something that's on your radar, and have you given any thought as to how we might use that?
Yeah, look, that's been on the radar for regions for many years. So if you take, I'm originally from Northland, so Tāne Mahuta, some of you may know, obviously is our New Zealand's biggest Kobe tree. We could never clip a ticket there, or in Cape Ann, which is our #1 visitor attraction. So there are issues. We have it here at Hamilton Gardens. It's a free attraction, but actually we know for a fact Chinese tourism operators, unfortunately, are they're different to us when it comes to values, and they will actually take $10 off every single person after they've already paid to go through the gardens, even though it's a free attraction. So really it's around how, if you do decide to clip the ticket, how would you do that? Because that's definitely something the region are looking at as well. Matamata Piako with regards to Wairere Falls and Mount Te Aroha, they have big issues there as well. So again, it's potentially collectively what could we do here? Because I think the good thing about it eventually is there are solutions. You could look at different ways where residents aren't penalised. You may issue a residence card or an app where everyone who's a Waikato resident can access areas free, because you've got your proof of rates compared to those who potentially may have to pay or pay a different rate. So there are options. Other regions do it, also districts do it as well, by providing preferential rates for ratepayers.
Thank you for that. Councillor Van Rooyen.
Thank you. Are you in support of donation boxes at attractions?
Donation boxes again, I'm still quite...
A
the donation boxes.
donation box.
Yeah, look, it's hard. If you put something like that at Te Waho Spring, unless you have CCTV camera or some sort of security around there, our donation boxes do get broken into and taken, especially people even who have fruit and veggie stalls really are hit and targeted from honesty boxes. So I think it could work if it's in like a cultural centre or a museum, because that way there is control and security. But potentially having donation boxes outside somewhere, unless it's regularly checked and collections taken, it's just high risk.
The Waikato River Trail have developed one that we hope is great and
Good.
Yeah.
And some of the best ones are actually big concrete pillars, actually, or steel that go right into the ground.
Oh,
It
yeah.
can't be pulled out, it can't be hacked or...
Mr. Hobbs has got a comment,
Yeah.
and then I will then.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, in terms of donation boxes, I think they're all now, and I understand there is technology where you can, with your phone, scan a donation into a barcode reader at a point of destination. Your issue then, of course, is internet connectivity and so on. A lot of areas don't have that, but to me, that's something we should be looking at.
Absolutely.
One of the things we've realised, and you mentioned it earlier on, is more and more people are actually subsiding the network. And I know the PZT is working together with us and other councils. How do we deal with the GPS companies that are taking this kind of local those are keeping it
Sure. Yeah, no, so look, we have come across that and we have been dealing with it. So there's one of the biggest problems we've recently had was there is, for those of you who know, from Karapiro mobile service station down to Hobbiton. It's actually a back road to get into Hobbiton. It's a local road. It's very narrow. GPSs and admin all directed down there. So we did work with NZTA around getting that taken off. So now it doesn't just show the quickest route to Hobbiton, it shows the preferred route only. So look at, if you do raise that with NZTA first, and then we work with those companies to actually get some of those local routes removed. So that can happen.
Good to hear, good to hear. All right, I'm going to wind this up. Thank you very much, Jason, for coming to speak to your report. We've had a long relationship with Hamilton Waikato since it started. We want to continue with that relationship, I think. When I see the report and hear what you've got to say, it certainly augurs well our relationship in the future. So thank you very much. And welcome to the South Waikato. Cheers. Thank you. Can I please have the recommendation that we receive the annual report for Hamilton Waikato Tourism, moved by Councillor Gash, seconded by Councillor Bell. All those